Hello, Mr. Gheorghiu.
Hello.
All right, so we go back to the romantic time and
Period. Yes. Well, we tried to show some games from these great champions. Lasker is the first one.
yes,
He's playing against Euwe. He was later on world champion for a short period by beating Alekhine, and he was world champion for 1 or 2 years. But it was very strong. And here it's very interesting because they play together, and Lasker, as always, plays a line where he's a little bit worse, starting from the opening. The opening is a little bit better for White anyway, you see.
hmm
So that was his style. I mean, he accepted such positions where it seemed that he's always a little bit worse. But finally, it was his force. I mean, he
he would
was able to win
to
even against,
stronger,
very
strong.
strong players. Yeah. And
Like,
that would be one of these examples here. It
okay,
seemed all the time, it seemed that White is
better.
clearly better, a
hmm
little bit less finally, and finally Black was better, and so
Ah,
the situation was reversed. We'll see. It was very instructive. Well, this line, everything is theory, starting with the first moves. And after knight f3, bishop e7, queen c2. Well, here everybody knows right now that the best way to play for White is simply rook c1 and later on bishop d3. Is a little bit better anyway for White.
so before,
It's not well. Queen c2. I mean, he's preparing. That was one of the first games that they played in this variation, and White plays a little bit. I mean, he tries a little bit too much. He plays first queen c2, afterwards a3, trying to control everything and giving very little counterplay for Black, you see. But it's not necessary. Now we know. So rook c1, bishop d3. White is a little bit better. One of these nice examples is my game against Vesterinan, as you remember,
yes,
I mean, the difference is that with rook c1 and bishop d3, White can allow queen b4 check later on, we'll say, which forces White to accept to trade queens. But even if he trades queens, White has a better position, and later on he can play for win, you see. It's not necessary to prepare so much, you see. So, okay, after queen c2 is a good move, of course. After queen c2
castle.
castle, he played now a3 again. I mean, he prepares again a little bit too much. Now, Black plays the same variation, where instead of rook c1 and bishop d3, White played queen c2 and a3. It's a small difference. It's a little bit easier for Black to get some small counterplay, now. So, okay, now he has to do something. He takes in c4, of course. No, rook e8, he prepares. Now rook c1, you see, he plays first queen c2, a3, and then he comes back to this idea with rook c1. Okay, so he takes, and now knight d5, all right. And so now you have to take the bishop, now to trade, no? He takes back with the queen, and now knight e4. That was the idea, you see. If White didn't play first a3, in some positions was possible to give check in b4, you see, with the queen in d1. That was the difference, you see. But it's not big, but White is better anyway, I tell you. So, okay, after knight e4, knight f6, the best way to do for White is to play back with the knight. So he gives now the possibility to try to get some counterplay, because knight g3 is very good against this normal idea with e5. e5 now is bad because White has first knight f5 and very strong position, after knight f5. So, okay, that was the idea.
So
So
you retreat the knight in order to come
yeah,
this
if
way.
you take in f6, is very little. White is still a little bit better, but very little,
Yeah.
because he has time to take with the queen, and afterwards e5, and it's almost equal, the position, almost equal. So, okay, knight g3 is a good move, and now c5. If your Black reacts on the other side, you see.
Yeah, but this is good because
So if he played e5, he could play immediately knight f5. A very strong initiative for White, you see.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So castle, yes, and now he has to take, probably, no? And now he took back with the knight, of course. It's much better than taking with the pawn, because if he took with the pawn after b6 and bishop b7, is all right for Black, Is now I mean, controlling the square d5 is enough to get some, some normal game. Yeah. So after knight d4, knight takes d4, black has to do something because he has, some problems on the c line. White controls the c line for the moment, and the two pieces from c8 and a8 are a little bit passive for the moment, you see. So, okay, knight b6 is all right. So bishop back, of course, and rook b8. Well, after he played rook b8 because he wants to control the pawn b7 first, If he played first immediately, I mean, bishop d7, white could play, immediately queen c7 with some advantage, So, okay, he prepares rook b8, and now e4. Well, what could he do? The idea was after the game, Alekhine commented this game, and he recommended here instead of e4 to play queen d2 with the idea to come with the queen in a5, which is probably all right. White must be a little bit better anyway. Queen d2 with the idea queen a5. If he arrives in a5, it's okay. It's very good for white. So that was the alternative, But e4, it seems, must be good. You remember, e4, I mean, he has more space, with white, and he wants to take the initiative, of course. Now rook d8, and after rook d8, he played rook d1. Until now, everything is normal, you see, normal moves, you see. So bishop d7, and here white, continued. I mean, he played e5, and again, very, very strong. It seems very strong. And now a small surprise, but very good move, defensive move, knight e8. Why so good? Because controls the square c7. White wanted to come to c7, maybe, and controls also the square d6. It was a very big difference if black played the normal move. It seemed normal, knight d5. If he played knight d5, after knight e4, it was excellent for white because he had time to arrive in d6. If he arrived in d6, it was fantastic for white. But now he's a little bit passive. I mean, he waits. It's a normal way to play for Lasker. He was playing always like this, And he gives some space. He gives the initiative for white. So white has to demonstrate why he's better and what does he want, Okay, so bishop b1. First of all, he threatens to come on the diagonal, and he forces the move g6, because otherwise, so g6. Now has the idea to have some weak square on f6, therefore he played like this, So until now, we can't criticize Euwe because he did everything right until now, you see. But okay, queen e4, very normal move, central squares. Now he provokes a small weakness, you see, with bishop, now b3, now bishop back, Now, if you want something, you have to advance. I mean, he played a4, of course. And now we see we have the same position, but black has some counterplay on the black squares, to arrive with a piece with the knight maybe in b4. Then he has some small counterplay, you see. So, all right, knight d5, good. So what to do with white? Again, he puts the bishop on the best square. I mean, he tries to come in b5 or in c4, you see, to attack the knight from d5. Okay, so right here, rook c8. Well, now he had a little bit of time to come on the c file, you see. So bishop c4, okay. So after bishop c4, bishop c6. Well, even if he has a small weakness, I mean, if white in some position can take in c6, he can take with the pawn back, and it seems that black is a little bit worse all the time. But in reality, he has control, on the d file. He didn't give the file, and the knight from d5 or from b4 will be strong enough to give some counterplay, So let's say even here white is very little better, but not much, So okay, so white continues. I mean, he plays very actively, So knight b4, and now rook f3. Well, Rook f3, what can we say? If he came back to d1, for instance, the game was probably more or less even, you know. But like this, after rook f3, black has, in this moment, black has the file, you know. So, okay, he tries to come on this file again by doubling the rooks. You know, what did he play? Rook c7, I think.
Yes. But white doesn't have anything here?
No, he wants to come back with the queen. That is the idea, to come back and then put the knight in e4, you know, to attack something with the knight, you see.
Okay.
But he doesn't have enough to get some strong attack or something. You know, black is okay. He's a little bit passive, but nothing happened for the moment. Yeah.
Under control, everything.
Yeah. So okay, h4, very good again. You know, okay. Finally, black took the file. You know, black has control over the d file. So it's probably enough to get some good counterplay. Okay, h5 is strong enough. I mean, he threatens something with h5.
Yeah.
And now queen g5. Immediately, Lasker controls the square, and he puts the queen on a black square, you know, controlling everything and defending everything, you know.
Yeah.
So, okay, now we have to move the rook, all right. So we have to move the rook, but now it's not clear at all who is better, you know. So rook d4, so you have to move back, you know.
I give up the queen here, but...
Okay, he took. Now it's wrong to take in e4 because he's probably lost afterwards, you know. I mean, if he takes there, he takes first with check in f7. Yeah. King f8, the only move. And now knight takes e4. And then now it's very dangerous for black, you see, in this position. Because if he has the possibility to move something, I mean, he can, if he has time to move the knight somewhere, black is already lost, you know. He has time to attack the something, h7, e6, okay, now you're in very, very wrong. I mean, you don't have time. If after knight takes e4, black probably is already lost because he has no time to take in e5. If he takes in e5, he loses immediately, you know. Okay, queen takes. Now he takes with check in e8.
Yeah.
Queen, king takes, and knight f6 check and resigns.
Yeah.
You know? So, okay, you don't have time, so you have to take back in g6, but it's all right. He takes back to the pawn, and now you have to decide what to do. He moves back, and rook d2. Now, he had probably to accept the fact that he doesn't have much and play probably queen e4 or even queen e3. Well, black has no problem at all, but okay, it's probably enough to, you know, to have an even game. A little bit better for black already, you know, because he has control on the d file. You know. So instead, he played queen f1, a little bit passive, and now black takes the initiative, you see. Okay, so knight e4, that was the idea for white. I mean, his hope was here that he has time to attack the queen, and if black takes in e5, to take the queen. I mean, black can sacrifice the queen for rook, knight, and pawn, but it's good. I mean, the idea is okay for black. The sacrifice is sound enough, you know. So now, a small surprise, he takes the pawn and he gives the queen for rook, knight, and pawn. But he takes complete initiative here, black, you know.
Yeah, okay.
So starting from here, black is in control, you know. Black is playing for win, without queen, you see.
Mm-hmm.
So he takes back with the queen, of course. Now rook takes, knight takes. Okay, so now we see the result. White has the queen, but queen doesn't play. You see, the queen from f1 is very passive. And black is everywhere. You know, the knight is excellent. He has complete control on the d file. And he wants to come with the other knight. If he has time to come with the other knight somewhere, in e4, for instance, is already very dangerous. So white has to do something here. But what? I mean, the rook is attacked. Has to move the rook somewhere. But where? You see, if rook in c1, because if he played, for instance, rook e2, you know,
yes,
he has to give back the queen and to accept the fact that he has to play later on without a pawn. His pawn down and very difficult position, you know. So, okay, finally he didn't want to do this. Well, after rook d1 is clear. Black is much better, you know. I don't know, maybe White has a small chance to save the game, but it's very unpleasant to say. So, okay, now here after rook c1, he has time to come. Well, knight e4. Now the position is already very dangerous for white, you see. Probably not almost lost, but very close, you know. So now he has to defend by only moves, but it probably is a little bit too late, you see. Because after knight e4, look at this. He's, complete control. Black is coming, has very good, attacking chances, and is very, very unpleasant for white to play, you see.
Yeah.
So after bishop f3, a little bit artificial also. Now knight takes f2. Now he took another pawn, and the initiative continues. This is very unpleasant. So queen c4. Finally, the queen could play a little.
Yeah.
So now again with tempo, knight d3. He attacks the rook. Now we have to move the rook only in f1 probably now.
Yes.
And now again with tempo, knight f3, knight e5. So after knight f5. Everything continues, but the king will be very exposed, the white king, see? So again, queen b4, what else? So after queen b4...
Attacking the rook.
Attacking the rook, but black is playing. Now he takes in f3 with check. Now you have to take only with the pawn. And now check. I mean, he wants to come with this knight in f4 with tempo, you see. If he has time to come in f4, he has very good chances to have some mate threats later on, against the white king. So it will happen in the game, we'll see. So king h2. Well, king f2 was no better. Yeah, after queen f2 was also very strong for black. After c5, the attack will continue. Very unpleasant for black. For white, yes.
Sorry, which move?
King f2 instead of king h2. After c5, they said after c5, probably black is winning afterwards, by force.
Why?
What to do here? I mean, if he take queen c4, for instance, and now probably check is enough in f4. Yeah. And, the position is terrible. Because now after king g3 is almost mate. After queen g3, g5 is almost mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, terrible position for white, So, okay, he came to h2. But I tell you, very unpleasant anyway. So now he came back to h1. And now we look at this position. The king is very bad in h1, very exposed. In any position, he can get mated, very quick, you see. So after rook d4, queen e7, I mean, he tries to have some counterplay. So now, look at this. Very quiet, king g7. He wants maybe to give one check in h8, and white has no counterplay at all, with the queen on board, So, okay, queen c7, probably time trouble also, and now rook d5, very active again. Rook e1, okay. After rook e1, he played rook g5. He's preparing the idea, we see. So after queen g5, he's almost zugzwang now. You have to move something, but what, you say? What to do? It's very unpleasant. Rook g1 is not possible because it's mate in h5, Queen, rook g1, rook h5 mate, you see.
Yeah.
So zugzwang. So he took in c6, and now, small surprise, but very normal, rook d8, and white resigned. Rook d8. Now it's mate on h8,
Yeah.
Very beautiful, you see.
He came with the other rook. I saw this
almost
one.
From nothing. I mean, if you look at the opening, you have the impression that white is always a little bit better and black has some problems,
Yeah.
But little by little like this, black equalized, and afterwards he took the initiative, and okay, we have the result.
Everything started with the d-file.
Well, that was his style. I mean, Lasker played always like this. It seemed that he was in some small trouble all the time, But finally he was very strong, and his force, was this one, He could reverse the result, Even in some, difficult position like this, because Euwe was a very strong player,
Yeah.
So look at the result, Queen on board, disaster,
Disaster for the
mate,
white king, yes.
It's mate.
True.
Nothing to do, Or he loses the queen, but if he loses only the queen, it's very little, I mean, he can play, for instance, queen c2 and give the queen in h2.
Yeah.
But his
It's a piece down.
Knight down, piece down, and some pawns, and okay, completely winning. Yeah, very instructive game. Even if maybe they had some small mistakes, but even so, the game is very beautiful because that show, how to play in some unpleasant position. Because starting from the opening, Black was a little bit worse. Little by little, he was
Recover.
able to recover.
Yeah.
So okay,
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gheorghiu.
you're welcome.